evening, Ursula Klinger. How are you?
Hi Denise, how are you? I'm
I'm
good. Thank you
good.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. It's been such a fun week, and I'm so keen to ask you loads and loads of questions.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yes, thank you
Um,
very much for having me.
Not at all. It's been a pleasure. Well, firstly, I wanted to talk about like how did you become an artist? What did like were you always creative as a child? Did it start, or was your family creative?
Well, I was always painting and drawing as a child and very much encouraged by my parents, especially my dad, who actually was very, very good at drawing as well.
Ah,
Um, he was a professor of mathematics, but still had this other talent to go with it. Um, then they probably came to regret that at some point because I wanted to become an artist professionally.
yeah.
And
Lots of
I,
parents always say to me, get your career, and you can always fall back on the art. But if it's
yeah,
in here, you want to be determined to do it, don't you?
yeah, do something else in the meantime. So we found a very good compromise that I thought was quite all right. I studied fine arts, history, and history for a secondary school degree teaching.
Okay, right.
So that was a kind of a compromise. The art section was really, really good in a kind of way because they taught us all sorts of different techniques. It was really the basics, which I
Mm,
really later on appreciated very much. So we went from drawing, oil painting,
mm.
etching, sculpture, um,
Everything.
wood carving, all sorts of things we went through. So that was really, really good.
And it stays with you for life, doesn't it? I mean, the even the basics of drawing is just a key fact. It's so important to painting. And so
Yes.
you grew up in Germany. So how did that become? How did you get over here? Tell us the story about that.
Thing was that I did a final thesis for college, and it was a combination between art history and history. So two professors actually had to read the um, the piece, and they took their time. So I decided in the meantime to take a holiday, and yeah, came to Ireland, and basically got stuck here. Um,
How did you
so
manage to pick Ireland?
sorry.
How did you pick Ireland?
Ireland. My parents brought us, myself and my brother, to Ireland when we were much, much younger, and I'd always wanted to return again. And
Okay.
I actually did a couple of Irish themes in college. I had one theme was the high crosses, and
Hmm.
the other one, particularly in the exams as well, was the Book of Kells. It's a long
Oh,
time ago, though, but
wow.
yeah.
God.
So there was a connection. There was a very deep
Yeah.
connection.
God. And was that when you met your husband then? Did you end up staying here and never
Um,
went back?
I
Or how?
ended I ended up staying here, but it was a long, long path, and long winded path, really. Um, so I basically, when I came over here, um, I stayed. I worked in all sorts of jobs, and then I also met a designer. I ended up in Clifton in Connemara. I met
Oh,
a designer there, and then I worked with her. She introduced me to book illustrations.
wow.
So I did a book on wildlife and other bits and pieces that I helped her out with. Then for a good while I was a sign painter. Then I also met artists in Galway, took part in the Western artist exhibitions, and it kind of developed from
Yeah,
there.
yeah, that's a great story, I have to say. Great journey. So have you remained a full-time artist since leaving college?
Basically, yes, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
with other bits and pieces in between, obviously, but yes,
And did you say your brother was a painter as well?
no.
Oh,
He was good at drawing. He's a geologist.
okay, okay. But still draws in his spare time.
Not really anymore. He was kind of
Oh,
sorry that he gave it up, but I think
yeah,
he draws curves and statistics now.
yeah. So I love this new body of work. yeah, one of the questions I've been asking artists is how have you survived lockdown? And just looking at the painting behind me, and I love the title, it's called Suspended as well. Can you tell us about this whole idea?
Yes, and in the beginning, I couldn't deal with lockdown at all. And,
Yeah.
and now a piece of paper just fell down, but never mind. Um,
Okay.
it will change the light a bit. Yeah, so no, I couldn't deal with it very well at all. And it took me a good while to get my head around it. I just
Yeah.
couldn't get to a creative
Yeah, a
idea.
lot of artists said that for the
I
whole.
heard, yeah, and I felt comfort in that as well. Especially writers as well got really, really badly affected. So I
Mm.
painted a few walls and doors and bits and pieces, until
Substitute.
until and until then I got this idea in my head. There was this one word that was very controversial as well, cocoon,
Yeah.
and that kind of interested me then again for the meaning that it had during lockdown, and also the butterfly, the encapsulation, and then the transformation and release. And that's kind of how I started working on it. And the piece behind you is exactly that. It's the cocoons, the isolation, and suspended means that everybody is waiting for that
Yeah.
moment when the release can happen, like the bodies open up. And it's also a very different technique that I
Mm.
used in this piece. It's completely painted more or less only with knife
Oh
and,
wow.
and chalk. So there's this stuff that I hadn't really done before to that extent.
That it's funny because a lot of our artists said that they were able to experiment with other
Mm,
mediums during lockdown.
yeah,
And I know one of my artists, Trudy Good, even she did beautiful kind of landscape work, which is completely different to her photorealistic work. So when you sent me this, it's completely different, isn't it, to
yes,
what you normally do?
yeah, that
You
piece
feel that
was.
you had the time to experiment different mediums.
I feel that's true.
Mm.
Yeah.
And yeah, and what about the other piece there behind me? I mean, it's quite a darker feeling, isn't it? A haunting feeling. Is that related to the same theme?
It has to do with it, yes.
Yeah.
Um, Although for me, in the end, it became a much, much wider meaning. Sort of like, yeah, we're all isolated creatures, even though
Mm.
we're social beings. And that's the same with the other piece as well. It's a group of isolated people, but in the end, we're all really, really on our own. And that's kind of symbolized by the covers. But at the same time, there is the opening in the background,
Mm-hmm.
sort of like I interpreted this in a kind of way as hoping to return to
The
um,
normal, the life.
yeah, normal, but even more than that. It's sort of like Arcadia, the
Yeah.
dream worlds that wouldn't be touched by diseases, destruction, and everything else. It's and that's why the title as well.
Mm.
The
That's one thing I've over the years. Your title and the meaning to your work has always been quite significant in what you do. There's always a meaning to it, but these ones are actually, yeah, they're quite special and fairly unique as well compared to previous ones. Um, but yeah, I think everyone can relate to them as well. Obviously, with lockdown. How can I ask? How did you like? Do you draw these out first, and you sketch everything out, or do you have any models with sheets over them that you tried to do, or is it all done from your head?
No, those were photographs I had found.
Oh
Um,
wow!
but they were accidental, and I transformed them completely. So
Mm,
there was a base idea, and I keep an archive of newspaper clippings as well, photographs, and all sorts of things. So
mm,
I can pick when I'm looking for something. I can go through the archive, but then things also get changed tremendously.
mm-hmm.
So that's I had a piece of a figure setting, all right, but the whole background is completely invented and constructed from
Wow.
from scratch and from perspective
Yeah.
um, construction. Yeah.
Are you quite critical with your work, or do you know when it's finished and that's it, it's done?
Yes and no. I mean, I reach a point when I start kind of messing without changing much anymore, then I know it's done. But it doesn't mean that I wouldn't go back again later on and change other bits and pieces. Like I see a crooked line, or there was something wrong in the perspective of the tiles. Okay, fine, back again. That kind of way.
Yeah.
But yeah, in you have to find a point where a piece is done, because you can easily overwork it and it's no good.
So what is your favorite medium to use?
Oils,
Always oils, isn't it?
absolutely, without doubt. I tried acrylics, but I couldn't really deal with them. They had too many characteristics that didn't suit my approach.
Mm.
And I did watercolors as well. I still kind of like them, but I use watercolors also in a more really old-fashioned um, glazing technique. It's amazing. You wouldn't think that you can glaze with watercolors, but depending on the paper you use, you can't put layer after layer after layer without affecting the lower layers. So,
Wow.
but then again, the oils had they contained more richness,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also the ability of, like with the knife work, you
Mm.
get more substance into a piece.
I presume then you always have a few on the go at the same time and keep working on. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
suppose you
two or
have
three,
the
not
oils.
too many, but yes,
Okay.
because again, it takes time for one piece to dry, and
Mhm.
so you go to the next one.
I know people don't realize that oils take so long, don't they, to dry?
Yeah, yes.
And I remember your real early works that we used to show of beautiful shoes. When you do a series like that, is that you done, or do you ever go back and do more? Like if somebody asked you for a shoe commission now, would you do it?
I would.
You
Yeah.
okay?
No, I have a lots of subject matters really,
Mm,
and a series is rarely, unless it's really for a specific purpose,
mm.
developed in one go. I would yeah, go back to certain ideas again and again.
Oh, and where did you get those lovely shoes? Did you have them at home?
Sorry,
Did you have all those shoes at home to
I
draw from?
actually do.
No way.
I do have all those shoes. I bought them, and I kind of bought them also if I could in my size.
Yeah.
Um, I could never wear them. I can't walk in them. I break my legs. But
There's
it's just, yeah. And you waited for bargains. There was one pair or two pairs. They were so expensive, but I loved them. So I kept going back to the shop until they were
went
reduced,
down.
because probably nobody else could walk in them either, so they didn't sell.
Oh, so that's how you would paint from. You'd set the shoe up and paint it from, yeah, from life.
Yeah.
Okay. But other pieces you wouldn't. I suppose, yeah, there's more kind of there's yeah, what about the carousels and the fairground works? Was that from photographs or
I have to say they were from photographs. I mean,
yeah.
because of my style of working,
Mm,
even sketches wouldn't
yeah.
capture things going around. So I would take photographs, but at the same time, again, change an awful lot. Take
Mm,
out big sections of it and put them into a different kind of context. So even though the photos are there, but they kind of work more as a guide.
yeah.
They
Yeah,
don't.
just to a
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. That's the word reference.
And how are you quite disciplined? Like, do you paint from morning to evening and that's it, or what do you prefer?
No, I don't have a fixed routine.
Okay.
Um, there are times as well when maybe I wouldn't do an awful lot and then become completely and utterly obsessive about something.
Hmm.
So no, there's no pattern.
Mm. And what did that change with lockdown when you did get back into painting, or is it just whenever you feel like going into the studio?
No, that was then after I found the theme.
Mm.
That was one of the obsessive periods again then. So they were just, yeah.
It's good to have that a distraction and focus point, though, isn't it? On you.
Yeah, it was good to find that again.
And tell me about, you see the painting behind you with the chair and the door. Can you tell me what about that piece and exactly what it means? And
since I started with those pictures during lockdown, and then as I said, the opening and the big one kind of gave me the idea that I wanted to work further with openings, with doors, with possibilities, with release again. And that's where this picture really comes in. There is no background. And that's absolutely on purpose. It's just open into the light. And the title is, Where Do We Go From Here?
Yeah, I thought
again, that says to me, we don't really know where we're going. But at the same time, there's light and there's hope.
And you have an empty chair like that, it does say a lot, doesn't it?
Yes. It's either waiting for somebody to come in or somebody has just left. It leaves that open as well, you know. It's
and leave it up to the viewer almost to the side, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, and I mean, I changed my mind about it. I don't know. I don't really know. And in one moment, I thought somebody will come in or has left. It's
no, I love that. I love that about you. And what about size? Does it bother you to paint big or small, or do you have any preference?
Because of the size of the studio, I'm kind of more bound to smaller pieces.
Right.
The big one is 1 meter by 150. That is one of the biggest ones I've ever done. And
I've actually don't think I've seen that size before from you. Actually, you did your mom's portrait, was that a big one?
That was quite big as well. Yes, there was, I think, 1 meter by 120, but this is 150, and I actually had to take it out of the room here to be able to see it.
Yeah, to stand back.
Yeah, because I just can't do that here.
But
I'd love to do more bigger pieces. Absolutely, would love it.
Yeah, well, it's funny because some artists are limited to their car size because when they're getting them into me, they don't know their canvases that will fit into their car.
Well, actually, that's a point. That's a good point as well, because it wouldn't fit into my car.
That's one of the things with your mom's portrait. I was blown away with that. How come you don't do more portraits or commissioned portraits, or do you want to?
I have done portrait commissions.
Okay. And is that something that you like doing?
The ones I did, yes, I did. I did.
They're amazing. And you sculpt as well. You're a woman of many talents.
Yeah, no, I did. Recently, I did a bronze bust of Owen McNeil.
Amazing.
I have the model still here in the studio. And I did a couple of really, really big wood carvings for a couple of churches in Connemara.
Wow.
So they were about 2 meters, I think.
That's amazing. And so you enjoy doing that as well? Is it just like a break from the norm, just to try something else, or?
Oh, it was a great challenge, and I loved that. No, really, it was great. I got a tree out of Kylemore Abbey Forest. It was a fallen tree that I could have, and it was just even the logistics of getting the tree cut into chunks and then with the lorry into it was an old abandoned tennis yard where I worked, actually, just by the sea. It was absolutely fantastic, and I built a kind of a shed where I could work in, transitional shed.
Wow.
That was a challenge, and in the connection with the churches, I renovated one church as well, so sort of like redesigned the interior and the furniture, and did paintings for that as well. So there was a kind of a unity, a whole piece altogether.
Yeah, that's amazing because you're so creative. I mean, you can really try all different forms of mediums.
I'd like to, yeah. I've done etchings as well. There was a series of kind of abstract etchings that I did. the idea came from, it actually was a tea carton, and the tea bags had leaked, and I just knocked on the bottom of the box, and it was just amazing the kind of patterns that the tea created. And then in a very, very complicated process, again, that I learned in college, with involving photography and etching and all sorts of different techniques, I developed a couple of series of etchings from that.
Gosh, it's amazing. So it really is important to try everything in college, isn't it? And to see.
I love it.
Yeah. What was the name of the college you went to?
It was the Rheinisch-Westfälische Technische Hochschule Aachen.
Oh my God. Okay,
I know. It was never mind. It was a technical.
I won't even try to attempt to say that.
It means the Rhineland-Westphalia Technical High School Aachen. Aachen is a town in the west of Germany, and in a very, very interesting corner between Belgium, Holland, and Germany. So you could take a bike and cycle through 3 countries within a couple of hours. It was great. It was great. We had great trips in Holland.
Do you go how much? Or I know obviously you can't, but before lockdown, would you have gone back quite regularly
to Germany?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. A lot. Since my dad died, I promised my mother that I would try to see her every couple of months, and I've done that.
Gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's heartbreaking at the moment. She had her 89th birthday this year, and I couldn't go. So that was hard. Is hard.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we're coming to some light soon. Hopefully, a little bit. Ursula, I can't thank you enough. It's been so enjoyable chatting with you. I probably think you're the most creative woman I've met. You can handle everything from art form.
Well, thank you very much.
Not at all. Thanks for showing us around your studio as well. And yeah, I loved it. Thank you. And have a nice evening.
You too, Denise. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.